Hiring a pest control sales representative? Things to consider on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. No, this is not George Zimmer. This is Frank Hernandez. I just happen to have a terrible cold, as opposed to a good cold. But I am here today. I didn't want this week to go by without recording a podcast, and I've been struggling for the last couple of days, and it's been just a grueling week. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I mean, it seems like Murphy was riding with me, shotgun, and just one of those weeks where you wanted to stay home in bed, but you got to do what you got to do. And, I decided I'm going to do this podcast because I committed to doing it, even though everything is going haywire. I loved George Zimmer, those commercials. I mean, every time I saw one of those commercials, you're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it. It made me want to go out and just buy a suit. Then I watched a commercial with my wife sitting next to me. She says, "Hey, why can't you look and sound like that?" I looked at her like, "Oh, really? Thanks." But it's just one of that's one of those guys that just it's a man's man kind of guy, just wanted, it's just a really impressive personality that I used to love watching his commercials. And I just think the Men's Warehouse made a huge mistake in letting him go and taking the company in the direction they're going, competing on just nothing but pricing. That guy's an icon. I all my hat off to anybody who can accomplish the things that he did. But I'm so thankful to be here, thankful to be on the podcast. So if all you women right now are going crazy over this sexy voice, will you shoot me an email, follow me on Facebook. I think I might just keep the voice if it sounds that good, and try to duplicate this next week. But I wanted to talk about hiring a pest control sales rep and on this podcast. And before I do that, I want to give some shout outs and thank yous to people who are following us on Facebook. David Ward, he's a technician at Rent-A-Kill. Thank you for following us on Facebook. And also Green Pest Services at Green Pest Serve, responsible pest control out of Port St. Lucie. Website greenpestservicesfl.com is following us on Twitter, and thank you for following us. I love to go to Port St. Lucie. One of the reasons I love to go to Port St. Lucie is one of those places I like quiet. I'm one of those guys. I really do like to get away from the noise, the pollution, things, and it's one of those small little towns in the middle of nowhere that I love to go visit. And I like going to Naples, and I like going to the West Coast. But one of the reasons I really love Port St. Lucie, it's the only place in South Florida, as far as I know now, that still has a Bob Evans restaurant. And I got exposed to Bob Evans when I was in Ohio. And I just love, their biscuits and gravy. Man, it's a clogging experience. Their sausage gravy is just awesome. I love their strawberry pancakes. And I was going to take my wife this weekend over there to Port St. Lucie and go have breakfast over there and enjoy it. And we just couldn't. Things just happened, and we had to stay home. But I love going over there for that. Just a drive to go eat at a Bob Evans for me is worth it. Love it. I haven't had any. I mean, I've had a lot of sausage gravy and biscuits down here, but nothing like that. That's still like the standard of what I measure every other biscuit and gravy to be. So hopefully I'll be over there sometime soon having some biscuits and gravy. Hey, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, but you can call and leave a recorded message any time of day. 707-395-7378 is the number to call, and just leave a message. I will try to respond to your call. And if your question or comment is something that we can put on the air, we'll be more than glad to put your question or comment on the air for everyone to benefit from that. So greatly do appreciate you guys that call in and leave us messages and talk to us. Appreciate it so much. Tech tip: if you're looking to, if you like dusting and you like using dust, especially dust like Cymexa or DE, there's a great product out there called the Insecticide by Technicide. And it's a great piece of equipment. I got to tell you though, it's pricey. You're gonna drop down, between $700 and $900 for this piece of equipment. But if you do tons of dusting, like doing multiple units and doing bed bug service, and you're gonna get tired of squeezing that B&G or that Bellows duster. The Insecticide comes with lots of attachments, extensions. They come with a carpet up applicator and a brush applicator. Just a great piece of equipment that you can up your A game in pest control if you're doing lots of dusting. So I think it's well worth it. On the book of the week, I'm listening to an old book by Zig Ziglar. Now, to me, Zig Ziglar reminds me of Mr. Rogers. And he's like the Mr. Rogers of selling. Just one of those guys that you love and love listening to and just inspire and motivates you. And he did that for me for so many years. And it's called, it's a classic. It's called Zig Ziglar on Selling. And this is a classic book. If you just want to learn basics of selling and things that still work, it doesn't get old listening to this book. So I highly recommend, listening to the Zig Ziglar on Selling. There's also a book if you're struggling selling to different types of personality. It's an old book. It's a really old book. I think it's a valuable book on selling to different people, different types of personality, whether the person is right brain, left brain, whether they're kinesthetic, whether they're, you sell one. I've learned to sell one way to an engineer differently than I would sell to a person who's an art designer, differently from the way I sell to a woman, the way I sell to a man. I think the book Sales Magic, you could benefit from that book by understanding how to sell to different types of personalities. People who are touchy-feely, people who are analytical. I mean, I sell a different way to a person who's an accountant than a person, or a person who's an accountant or a computer programmer, where they're dealing in logics and a lot of the emotional stuff doesn't appeal to them. And it's a great book to teach you how to start thinking differently about how you approach different clients in different ways. So Sales Magic is another great book that I highly, highly recommend. Well, Zika is officially, mosquitoes have been officially found in Miami, Florida, carrying the Zika virus. And I got a link to that on the show notes if you're interested in knowing. There's also a Zika tracker for Florida. Miami-Dade, I think, had 194 cases of Zika. And I think Broward is right behind, I think, with 109 cases of discovered Zika. But it is something now to start taking a little bit more seriously since the mosquitoes have been found here. Now we've got a controversy with the aerial spraying, because most people are freaking out about the aerial spraying. They don't know what's in the product. It's funny because you would think if you're doing something like aerial spraying, you would tell people and educate the public on what's being applied, how it works, and what's the deal. And they're not doing that. I don't see that in the news anywhere in the information. And I think that's sad, that in the age of information, the news media is just reporting whatever it wants to report, not putting in there the facts about the products. But now we're finding bees being killed in the Keys, and from the aerial spraying, and people are freaking out about that. And the thing is, they're supposed to be spraying really early in the morning when bees aren't out yet, but they're spraying when the bees are out. 9, 8. Some people are saying, and that it could be true, it could be not true. I just think it's, to educate the public on what really is going on and what needs to be done to protect people from this, and is is the aerial spraying required, necessary? What are the things going on? I know cities are starting to treat all of their sewer drains with BTI dunks, and I've got a call from one of the cities, saying, "Hey, is this what we should be using?" I got a request from mosquito control, and I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what you should be doing." Guys, it is what it is. We had to start dealing with stuff like this now. We're just, we sold a mosquito misting system over the week. That they wanted it installed because on their property they do a lot of entertaining, and they do a constantly outdoor entertaining, and now they're concerned, and they wanted to install a system. So great opportunities, but I think educating the public on what's true and what's not is important. A lot of people call me, they want me to spray their yard and saying, thinking that's going to take away all the mosquitoes and they're not going to get bitten anymore, and that's just totally unrealistic. And I won't sell to people our products and service that have those expectations. We're never going to be able to satisfy that. So it's about covering up. It's about using repellents. It's about, not being in shaded areas, about dumping your water. I go to houses now and the gutters are full of leaves and nobody's cleaning them out. And you think people with this problem, people would be like, but there is no mass. It's always reporting on just, what's happening with Zika, and not about what people really need to know to really, prevent mosquitoes from breeding on their property, and it's just not there. Talking about hiring first or hiring a sales rep versus hiring a tech. And I think for some people, this might be a good strategy. There's always pros and cons. There's always pitfalls. There's always things you have to look at when making a decision like this. But from going from zero, where you've never hired anybody, to hiring a salesperson is a big step. And some people feel like they rather hire a salesperson rather than a tech, because they don't feel that they're going to get the quality that they're used to giving in a tech, and they want to do the work themselves, but they can't do the selling, and they can't do the estimating, and they can't do the work that is required to grow a little bit, to make more income, doing both the technical and the sales, and they choose to hire salespeople. And I think it is an option. It's none is better than the other. I think it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other, depending on who you are, your personality, what you envision for your company, for your business. And this might be a solution, but there are things you need to consider. And we're going to discuss a lot of this. Hiring a pest control person, you have to look at so many things that you might have not looked at. And one of the things is that you're going to have to come to grips is that there is no perfect compensation program to compensate salespeople. You're going to go through a myriad of emotions, things that you need to consider, things that you want to, you want to think about, but there's no one way to, to compensate salespeople that's going to be fair or feel fair or be the best, and a lot of things have to do where you're at. All right. So one of the things is, what are your goals for your company? And immediately, somebody who's never hired a salesperson, has not grown a company, has not managed people. A lot of techs have never managed anybody. They were badly managed to begin with when they were in the pest control business. They were badly trained. They were badly incentivized, badly motivated. I mean, this industry is plagued with a lot of problems because of the way people think and the way these business owners sometimes think that things that worked 30, 40, 50 years ago, that mindset that comes from the Industrial Revolution, doesn't work today, especially for millennials. You're not going to attract new and young talent, vibrant talent, having old school mentality and old school thinking. A lot of things are important to these people, and you need to, if you're going to attract young talent, vibrant talent to your company, you need to stop thinking the way that you do all the time and open up your mind, think outside of the box. And sometimes thinking outside of that box is going to require you to crush the box. I mean, as long as that box is there, you can always go back in there and think the same old way. And sometimes you're just going to have to crush the box. But, you might say, well, duh, Frank, what I really wanted to make more sales and make more money. And you might be sacrificing long-term health of your company for short-term gains. Have you thought about the culture of a company you want to build? Are you just at a point that you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you want to just get some relief and hire anybody, just a warm body, somebody that has blood and their heart's pumping, to take some of the pressure away, some of the things away, when you in fact just might be adding more problems to yourself? And believe me, I've been there and I've done that. I've hired wrong. I've hired people that I needed immediately, and I've made hiring decisions based upon the need and not about the long-term health of the company. And I've, ended up making a mistake. And I've done it more than once. That's the sad part. I've paid tuition on that, because you fall into that you need help, you need somebody, you need a warm body, you need somebody to pick up the slack, you're overwhelmed, it's summertime, everybody and their grandmother's calling for something, and you just can't handle it, and you've been doing it for 10 years, and you're tired. I get it. But you still need to step back and say, what is the culture? If I really want to build a company, do I want some relief, or do I really want to build a company? Do I want to build a business that's a viable business that I can sell? I mean, you have to have goals in mind and saying, do you want a helper to ride shotgun with you, or do you really want to train a technician to take over a route? There's a big difference. Do you want a guy to drill holes, dig dishes, or do you want somebody that's actually going to be able to take care of things so you don't have to be there as an owner? And not that you're an absentee owner, it's just that you're not involved in every minutia detail of everything that gets done. What is it that you want to accomplish? Where do you want to go? What's your goal? Do you want to build a culture? A company around a specific culture? Do you have a vision? Do you have a mission for your business? And is the person that you're going to hire, the process you're going to use, the systems that you're going to put in place, are they going to contribute to that, culture, vision, and mission, or are they going to detract from it? Too many things to consider besides the short-term gain. If you can't build a company culture, a company, by hiring mercenaries. Mercenaries are for hire, and they usually will go for the highest bidder. Whoever pays the most, that's what we'll go with. Whatever pays the most, that's what we'll sell. Do you need somebody to sell across the line and sell everything you have in your line equally? Or are you just going to let them choose what they're going to sell, and other parts, because they're not as profitable, the commission isn't that great, then they're not going to sell those products for you? So again, you need to look at the short-term gain versus the long-term strategy of why you want to hire. The other thing you're going to have to get used to is that superstar salespeople are going to make 30 to 50% more, if not more, than your techs. And if your company culture is about everybody being equal and the techs are going to feel like they're underpaid, you need to figure out how you're going to deal with that. Because it's a reality that if I go out and sell and all I focus on is selling and getting clients and getting clients and getting clients and getting clients, and that's the only thing I do, then I have an opportunity to either make more or make about the same, but it all depends on the market. So you will have to deal with that your salespeople, if they're really good, are going to go out there and hustle, and they're going to make six figures. There are people making, companies offering and making six figures in pest control sales in this industry because they have good companies that stand behind them, helping them produce that kind of revenue. And they're producing not only that, but they're producing sometimes $1 million a year in sales to the company, because that's what they're focused on. And you need to understand that a tech and a salesperson is not going to make the same amount of money. The hiring, I said, a hiring of an associate is a really, really, really serious matter to consider. Things you want to consider before you hire. If what you do is so specialized that nobody but you can do it, and you can't spend the time, the years it's going to take to train a tech to do what you do, then yeah, you might want to, the salesperson is probably what you want right now to allow you to focus on the work and let the salesperson bring in the customers. This will allow you to bring in new customers. And that's what you're going for. You're wanting to increase either your repeat customers or new customers. You want market penetration, and you have to take it from somewhere. Now, there's some cons. What you got to figure out can you hire techs that can do tech work and sales? And if you can't, because you already have one or two routes going, and your salespeople can or won't sell. All right, they either they got too many stops during the day, or they just don't want to sell. I mean, period. Then, at a minimum, I think your salespeople should be cloverleafing minimum every stop they make. This is about 2-3 minutes. Unless you're doing 10-acre properties that takes them 20 minutes to walk across the property, relatively most homes, they can cloverleaf and stick 4 to 5 flyers on somebody's door, telling them that they're doing their neighbors, and they can call into the company, and you can give them a commission for every call that comes in from that area, because you know directly where they're from. So offering your salespeople a commission to sell or promote that way. Second, your salespeople, every stop they make, they should be dumping off a business card. Every store, every time they pump gas, every time they go eat something somewhere, they should be dropping off a business card. If your people do not want to cloverleaf and do not want to talk to people and do not want to promote the company, you've got a more serious problem on your hands than whether you need a salesperson. At this point, I think you should stop. Take a look at what's happening. What's the morale of your company? Because if your techs are not your number one advocates out there, your techs are not passionate about the company, about promoting the company, you've got a serious work to do. You got a serious job on your hands, because your morale is so low that they don't think it's worth telling anybody about who they work for and what they do. They should be very ecstatic about the company they work for. And if to them it's just getting a paycheck and going home, you really need to consider before you grow anymore, do you want to continue down this path? They should be your biggest fans. Now, what are you selling? Well, if you're a company that sells pest control only, annual contracts on pest control, or you're a company that sells pest control, annual contracts, and termite, there's a lot more profit and a commission percentage to be made on a one-time sale for doing a termite treatment than a one-time sale for doing a roach treatment. And if you pay commission only, you will end up with a salesperson that only wants to focus on going after one or two things, either the easy sale, the low bottom of the barrel sale, or they're going to go after only the clients who are going to provide them the most compensation for their time. And when you create two different targets to shoot at, well, you're going to go with what you feel is easiest, and you're not going to get sales across your line. So either the least amount of products you offer, or the compensation has to be there, that if they're going to invest their time in that client, with that client, then it's worth their time. A one-time service, $125 roach job at 25% is $31.25. For him to make $3,000, he's got to make 100 contracts a month. He's got to sell 100 of those. All right. But, if you got a $1,600, termite job or a $3,000 termite job, he only needs 2 to 4 sales a month to make his money, about $400 to $600 in commissions. Versus selling a $5,000 mosquito misting system versus selling a one-time mosquito spray. I mean, do you really want to invest this time in that? And those are the things that you need to consider is what are you selling? And is what you're selling really attractive to somebody that they feel they can make money, especially if you're doing commission only. And there are a lot of drawbacks about doing commission only. The question then becomes, the second or third question becomes, are you selling your products at a high enough profit margin that you can even afford a salesperson or a tech? I mean, if you're selling a $65 product and you need to pay a 25% commission on that product, you got to jack up that product 35% in order to take out the 25. So now a $65 product, you got to sell it for $87. There are a lot of people out there that have this mentality that they go out in business on their own and they can be better and cheaper than the boss they worked for. And they end up shooting themselves in the head and the foot. Because you can be cheaper than your boss. You can be cheaper than the competition. But you can't be cheaper and better for long. If all you plan to do in your life is be the one guy that does everything, does the sales, does the appointments, does the job, and this is what you plan to do, then you can be both. But if you're going to be better and you're going to be cheaper, you're going to shoot yourself. You need to figure out that you need to sell it in your market. My opinion is that independents should not be cheaper than any company out there. As a matter of fact, it should be more expensive. Because what you're selling is your individualized attention, experience, expertise that you can't divide yourself. Unlike a company can. A company can leverage itself because it operates on a profit margin only. It pays all its owners from profit. And you're paying yourself from gross profit. And you are absorbing all of the costs of marketing, all of the cost of that equipment. You have nothing to spread it across on. And you should be more expensive than anybody else in the market. If people want an independent to cater to all their needs when they call, you can't be doing 12, 15 stops a day. You got to be doing 6 to 8 stops a day in order to be able to satisfy people. So, do you have enough margin? If not, you got to start thinking about raising your prices so you can afford to hire somebody in the future. If you can't raise your prices because you're saying my old customers won't pay me, you need to do it on new customers only. But you're going to have to raise your prices. Now, the question is, will you be paying straight commission? What percentage? Well, what percentage in your marketplace are other people paying? Will you be paying a salary, guaranteed? We got huge problems with that because now if you're salaried and you're only in sales, you can, and you're not an executive, the new laws might not allow you to do that. And you're going to have to pay a really hefty salary with a small commission. Will you be paying hourly plus a commission? Plus overtime. Because if you tell your people you got to sell in 40 hours a week because we're paying you hourly, and then your commission is going to cover the rest, the state law might not allow you to do that, and that's kind of unfair. So, do you pay, hourly plus bonuses, plus commission? What do you do? What do you do if you're paying a salary? What kind of quota will you have if you're paying hourly? What's the incentive to do more? Because if you're just paying a salary and you have a quota and everybody meets quota, we just bought a vehicle over the weekend, a new sales vehicle. And I was discussing with the salesperson at the showroom, and I said, so what's your quota? He says, well, quota is 10 vehicles a month. But if you make just quota, you're going to starve because you can't make it. So you got to sell about 20 vehicles a month average to make any good money. You're pretty much going to fire yourself. So if you make it good enough that, they're just meeting quota, what's the incentive to do more? You understand that salespeople are highly competitive. They're not technicians. Real salespeople are very competitive. They want to know that they're not paid on production because they're going out there beating the pavers, getting you customers that normally you wouldn't have. The salesperson gets to repeat the same thing every day. The technician does. And yes, it is tough. I'm a technician. I know it's tough being a technician. I'm not downgrading it. But I think doing sales is much harder than being a technician. And I've been both. If you pay, if you're doing peak C only and you're paying 25%, and your quota is 75 contracts per month, do you offer anything else, a bonus? Is there something else attached to that that's going to make a person from another pest control company want to come work for you? Get super. I mean, remember, you're only going to get superstar people if you got superstar products and superstar compensation. You're going to get the bottom of the barrel if you do anything else. So one company says, hey, you only got to do 75 with us to make the same amount of money that you're doing over there. You got to make 100 contracts a month over there to make the money. Well, that's 25 contracts less to make the same money. I think I'm going to come over here. Will you be providing a company vehicle? That is a huge cost. That will add easily 15% of the cost of doing business to have a sales vehicle out there running around, chasing down leads. Will you reimburse for mileage if they use their own vehicle? Or are you expecting the commission to cover the cost of operating a vehicle? I mean, when gas goes through the roof, when it almost did at $5 a gallon, and you've got a 25% commission, and the guy's using his own vehicle, and he's putting 20, 30,000 miles a year on that vehicle, is it going to cover it? What does your state say about your laws? Are you allowed to hire 1099 employees or 1099 subcontractors as salespeople? Or does your state say you have to be a W-2 employee? Does your state say you have to be a W-2 employee that's exempt, that doesn't have to get paid salary or hourly, but can be paid straight commission? Or does your state say, nope, it has to be hourly and it has to be commission? Is it an inside sales rep that you're hiring or an outside sales rep? So you need to know what your state law, if you have to pay and you can't pay a 1099, boy, that's going to add about another 20, 25% to the cost of that commission. So a sales commission that would have been 25% is probably now 28, 29, 30% when you add on workman's comp, taxes. You have to pay an accountant now to do payroll. You got to pay a payroll service. You got to do something. You're going to have an added cost of that commission. Is that salesperson captive or is in the independent rep? In other words, can they go out and sell, satellite dishes for another company because they're in people's home and you're saying, well, this guy's selling satellite dishes, and he's selling alarms. He could sell pest control for me. I mean, he's in a lot of homes. He sees a lot of things. It's natural. And the question is the commission you're paying worth it for him to even mention it or deal with what has to be done to sell pest control? Is he selling termite? Is he selling lawn and ornamental? Is he selling just straight pest control? Is he selling mosquito services? What is he selling? Because if you try to get him to sell 15 product lines, that's too hard. You need to keep it simple. Is the person you're hiring have a non-compete from another company? Because that's going to make it really hard if he wants to thinking about going and scalping customers from the other account, he's going to have to wait 2 years in some cases before he can go and target those customers. And if that's his intention, do you really want to bring that headache upon yourself from a competitor? Are you hiring an experienced person, he's got every customer that he's ever sold since 1970. And, he's been with every company in town. And this guy can bring a lot of customers your way, because a lot of customers for you might be only 12 a month. I mean, you don't need 75 customers. You need 5, 6, 7 customers. He's looking to retire. The question is, can you teach an old dog new tricks? It's very hard. If you want to grow a business, can you teach him to do something new? Well, you have to retrain. How many products is that new person going to have to know to be able to be effective for you? Second is your business seasonal? I mean, here in South Florida, we're year round. But if you're out somewhere where it's, the middle of December, who can sell pest control in January? What are you selling? Can you do it? Will you be hiring a seasonal? If you're hiring seasonal, then you might want to hire some college kids to do pest control only sales. A lot of companies have grown to be very large companies, very controversial, filled with a lot of negativity. But you got Frontline out of Virginia and Baltimore, Orange Pest in California, Altera in Utah, and Moxie out of North Carolina, which have very successful sales programs. Do you have the ability to be a sales manager and train a staff of salespeople to go out and sell? Can you motivate them? Or do you have to, or should you hire a sales manager to build a sales staff if you want to build a sales staff? In California, the Pest Control Board says that door-to-door salespeople selling pest control service must be licensed. Now, licensed individuals going door-to-door may leave flyers and set up appointments. Every licensee is issued a license. So you can't hire an actual salesperson to make the sale if they're not licensed, but you can hire people to generate leads in California. So that's another thing you have to know is, what's your law? How long will it take you to train this person? I mean, if you're only selling pest control service, annual contracts, or you're only selling mosquito misting systems, that's very easy to do. But if you want a person that says, well, I sell, termite, and I sell pest control, and I sell rodent control, and I sell flea service, and you got to sell all this, and the person has never sold it before, you're going to have to invest some time training that person on what it actually takes to do that job. And you better have fixed pricing that guarantees he's not going to undersell it. Because if he does, and he doesn't know one thing from another, that's a big problem between sales and techs. The person doesn't know what the heck he's selling. And we're out here beating our brain against the wall, trying to make it happen. So you got to invest time in training. My position is I train a salesperson the same way I train a tech. He has to be willing to go out in that field and actually do the work to find out what it actually takes to do that work for some period of time. What's going to keep you from hiring a rep or a tech? It's pretty much pride. You got this idea that you built this little baby from the ground up. It's your baby. It's your little girl. And no one is good enough to have her. Nobody's good enough to work for me. I'm the best. That's pride talking, and that will keep you paralyzed for a long time. When you think you're the only one that can do this job right and nobody else can, you'll never find anybody that's good enough to hire, and you won't grow. And you're saying, well, the problem is there's not any good people out there. There is good people, but you're going to have to probably interview 100 people before you find one. That's a lot of work. It costs an enormous amount of money to hire somebody. I mean, it's several $1,000s worth of investment in time to hire somebody, because you have to vet them. You have to, check their references. You got to make sure they give you a clearance letter that they're not a, convicted felon, and, you put that guy in the house. So you got to do a lot of work to hire somebody. It's not that easy. The simpler your business model, the faster you can get up and sell. I mean, if the only thing he's going to sell is, $4,000 or $5,000 misting systems, that is a whole lot easier than somebody who has to sell, termite jobs and has to know how to make calculations, has to know how to figure out what's going to be used and how many square feet and, a ton of algebra that has to be done to figure this out. The other thing you might consider is, are you going to have to expand your market? Are you going to have to travel longer, more windshield time? Because your market isn't big enough for a salesperson to make any money. Salesperson is going to want to be able to drive, from here to Timbuktu, Egypt, to make a sale. And he's going to expect you to go over there and because he sold it. So, are you selling inside the county? Are you selling multiple counties? I mean, in this county, I got 1.8 million people to choose from. You might have to travel 5 counties before you find that many people. So are you willing to expand your product and services that you offer to accommodate? Because you can't really go out and sell that much pest control. Is there enough bed bug jobs to sell? So that's one of the things you might have to consider. We already talked about raising your prices. Here's one that, most people don't consider as techs. Are you going to be providing leads? In other words, every time that phone rings, are you going to keep that for yourself because you could sell it and not give it to your tech or your salesperson? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to give it to them and have it at a different commission rate than if he goes out and beats his head against the pavers every day? A lot of people get really stingy. They don't understand sales. They don't understand they think that I'm the owner and I should be making so much more money than everybody else. And sometimes you'll have to not make as much money as everybody else in order to get things going. Having that mentality is, do you have enough advertising budget to provide consistent leads so that person can sell and then also prospect? Because I tell you, it's a lot easier to sell a call than it is to sell, knocking on doors. Do you have any brand recognition that's actually viable? There's a big difference. You've been in the market for 3, 4 years, 5 years, and nobody really knows you. You think everybody knows you because you've been there so long, but nobody really. I mean, I'm in a market of 1.8 million people. Nobody's heard of me. Nobody's heard of who I am. I'm working my tail off to build up the brand. So there's a big difference to go work for a company that has 30 trucks on the road, that every time somebody turns around, they see the truck. There's advertising on that truck. There's a phone number. You got 30 billboards running around town versus the guy who has none. I mean, who do I want to sell for? I want to sell for the guy that has the brand recognition because it's, a little bit easier to sell. I mean, the service could be total crap. The guy with the 30 trucks. And you got to assume, and everybody just says, well, those guys, because they got so many complaints. Well, they got so many complaints because they got 100 times more customers than you do. You're going to have more complaints if you have that many more customers, just the law of averages. It doesn't mean they're a bad company. Some of them are. You see, so, advertising costs the same to buy a billboard, whether you are one guy or you got 10 guys. It doesn't cost anymore. An ad in the paper costs the same whether you have 1 or 10. The guy who has 10 can just spread it across 10 routes. So there's a big difference. How much more work is he going to have to do to work for you versus working for somebody else? And you might have to pay that person more. This is why I'm saying that independents should be charging more than their competition, because they have a lot more to cover to make the same amount of money. Are these mostly one-time services that you're doing? Man, a salesperson selling one-time services all the time, he's got to sell a new customer all the time. Does he have anything else that he can go back to sell later after the initial service? Can he go back and sell a lawn job? Can he go back and sell a system? Can he sell them, something else besides what he sold them? For him to go back and make, this is what makes insurance sales so attractive. Every time that contract is renewed, the salesperson makes a commission. If you're going to be selling, are you only paying on the first year? And then after that, it's auto renewal. And therefore that client, even if it's auto renewal, the salesperson never sees a commission on that client ever again. You have to address that issue. What's everyone doing in your area? What works in Miami won't work in Atlanta. I guarantee you that. Good luck getting a company down here in Miami to pay you 25% commission on sales and 25% commission on work. It's not going to happen. Have you thought about what it cost for your little pest control business to acquire a lead? Most people never do any marketing analysis to figure out what a lead is costing them. If a lead is costing you somewhere between $125 and $150 to acquire, and you got a sales guy trying to sell $600 a year pest control, you've got about 25% of that price tied up just in acquiring that lead. Would it make more sense to pay that guy double for him to do all the work and bring you that customer with no leads? It all depends. You have to figure out the numbers. Most people would never think of that. I said, if I got a guy hitting the pavers and I'm doing no advertising, no marketing, and getting no leads for him, and it's 100% hit the bricks, and you're not paying for acquiring the lead, you're not paying for the prospecting, would you consider paying that guy a lot more than what you would pay normally if you were doing a lot of marketing? How much work does your sales rep have to do before, during, and after the sale? I mean, does he have to crawl in a crawl space for an hour or two, inspecting everything in a house? If you got a $2,000 tent job or a $2,000 treatment job, it's worth for him to spend a couple of hours, because he's getting paid $400 or $500 worth of commission. Do you hand it over to the company and the CSRs handle it from there, and then hand it over to the tech, and the tech handles it from there? You don't have to do any follow-ups. You don't have to do any follow-up inspections. You don't have to do anything. I mean, what are you going to require them to do during, before, and after the sale? The more work you tack on that you want them to do for you, the more they need to get compensated. Will you be capping commissions? In other words, after you've made so much, that's it. We're not going to pay any more on this, and that's detrimental to a lot of techs to cap commissions. Will you be using escalating commissions? 10% on one service, 12% on another, 50% on the second service, 20% on the third service. What are you paying them? What structure? If a follow-up is required, then, do they get paid additional for those additional follow-ups that are required also? If you only pay on first year sales, are companies in the area paying on first, second, third year every time they renew? What are they paying? Some people, I've been in companies where I've been a salesperson, and management is always screwing around with the commissions because they feel they pay too much sometimes to a tech or to a sales rep. You used to be paid 10, on this, but you're hitting those quotas, you're hitting those high numbers, and everybody's starting to sell more of that, and the company says, hey, we're paying $100,000 in commission a month for this. Let's lower it down and we can make an extra 2% for us. And they start screwing with the commissions and screwing with the salespeople and piss them off to no end. And then you demoralize your company to get an extra 2% because you feel you're paying too much. Nothing happens, guys, until something is sold. And if you got people hitting the bricks for you, don't destroy the morale in your company by, messing around with commission percentages. It depends on how high of a level you want. If you want to hire a strategic sales rep, you can't do it on commission because those sales take forever. You have to pay a salary, plus a commission, plus whatever, percentage you want. Salary is always great. And here's the thing with the mentality of the market. Old school guys think one way, younger people think another. It is more important for them to have a life. It is more important for them to have some security, to feel appreciated. And when you only pay commission, you're basically hiring hired guns. And they will go work for the next highest paying gun. If you pay a salary, you're making a commitment to that person that shows that, hey, you're valuable, you're important, we want you. And if you're paying hourly, it also shows that to people because people want to feel that they're paid what they're worth. And nobody really is. And that's, but it's two different mentalities. And I personally want to attract a lot of new talent. I don't want a lot of people doing in my business what they're used to doing elsewhere based on where I live and based on my experience. Okay, this is not a condemnation of the entire market and the entire industry. This is based on what I see, based on what I've experienced for the last 10 years, based on how many people I talk to. I don't want to do things the same way everybody's doing it. This is why we're a totally different company now than I was, and I rebranded the entire company 2 years ago. And I had one tech and 4 trucks and subcontractors, and I was working 60, 70 hours a week in the field on a regular basis. And because this is the way everybody was doing it. And I said, I have to think of a better way of doing this. I'm thinking of getting out of certain businesses that I don't want to be in anymore in pest control and just focusing in on certain ones that I think provide the most value to people, not based on what provides the most money for me. Because I can't do the things that I want to do in certain industries. I can't do it in termite. I can't do it in ornament, but I can do it in GHP. And the culture, the image, the vision, the mission of the company that I want to build, a lot of things don't allow me to do it, and I have to work my way out of those and focus in on the areas that I do want to grow in order to make my company successful. And to me, I don't think I want to go the way of commission only. I think I want to go probably more to an hourly base of work where you have a high amount of accountability to the company, but you're secure, you're getting benefit, you're getting commission, you're getting bonuses. I've even thought about doing profit sharing with employees. And all of it is tough. None of this is easy. No, I can't sit here and say, oh, these decisions are so easy for me. No, this is very, very hard because I got to make commitments to people. And we're trying different things right now. I'm experimenting with different things, but it's finding the right person that fits the culture of my company more than finding the right person to do the work. I can find people to do work. I can't find people to be passionate. And the only way people are going to be passionate is if you're passionate and you will stand behind it by compensating them for that passion. And having that a company that loves what we do, people that work for us because they love what we do, not because of the paycheck they're getting. Because I know a lot of people that can't stand the company they work for. I think it's about 85% of people that are surveyed can't stand what they're doing. So it takes out-of-the-box thinking, and I think I'm getting ready. I've pretty much crushed the box with everything I've done in the last 2 to 3 years, with people telling me, oh, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and that can't be done, and this can't be done. A lot of things can be done if you're willing to pay the price to get them done. And that's what it really comes down to, is paying the price for what you want to do, paying the price for what is right, paying the price to do the right thing, versus taking a shortcut, taking the easy way. And to me, it's much more rewarding to do it that way. Folks, this has been fun. This has been real. I hope to see you next week, talk to you next week again. Until next time, you have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.